AJ, this is ALFEEN.
Good morning.
And we're just going to talk about building better connections. So we're going to talk about building better connections. So we've got a couple of businesses that we run. We just thought it'll be, by the end of it, you'll probably have an idea of what we do and why we do what we do. So we're a family of 4. All of our names start with A. A guy actually asked me, how come you manage that? And I said, I got up one morning and I thought, why not have everyone's names with A's? And I convinced them all to change it. And he was convinced. He actually said, oh, good on you for doing that. Yeah. So ALFEEN's GP by profession. And I'm a neonatologist. I look after extremely premature newborn babies. That's where I say I lost my hair. So those are the type of kids that I looked after. So we initially did our training in India, then went to the UK to specialize. We were there for 7 years in sunny Scotland, and we moved from Scotland over to Albury Wodonga. So for those of you who don't know where Albury Wodonga is, that's where it is.
It's the border town between Victoria and New South Wales. We moved in 2008, just looking at the map. We looked at the map of Australia and thought we want to be somewhere between Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra and Albury and Wodonga. Were spot on. It was right in the middle. Actually, it's a joke now. I got a job offer to work in Albury Wodonga and it fit every criteria that I wanted. So we ended up coming for the first time to Australia with our children. All our life belongings were in a cargo container coming 3 months later, but we just moved and we loved it. We loved it. It was a risk worth taking.
So in 2012, ALFEEN was working for a corporate, and then she decided she wanted to set up a GP practice. So in 2012, we rented 2 really old, probably derelict houses, converted them into medical centers, and we were running it. We outgrew that, and a year later, we built a 10 GP purpose-built clinic from the scratch. And we were running that for about 18 months, and we realized that we had outgrown that as well and ended up building the second premises. So it was like a one-stop shop. We had about 23 services. We had pathology, pharmacy, x-ray, specialist, dentists, physios, you name it. Everything was there between the 2 buildings over there. And it was doing pretty well. So we had about 23,000 patients. For those of you who don't know much about Albury Wodonga, there's about 100,000 people living there. So we had about 1/4 the population coming to our premises. We had about 100 staff and 23 services. So we'd done something right over there to keep the place running. Now, to cut a long story short, we were struggling to get doctors at one point to man those clinics because it was in such a rural area. And I went to the then Health Minister, Susan Ley, because she lived in Albury, to ask her about what she could do to help us recruit more doctors. And the thing she told me, I'll never forget, is it's people like you that are bringing the health system down. So I said I was running a bulk billing practice, offering the service, preventing people from going to Sydney and Melbourne for their services, doing it in-house, and this is what she told me. So it was a bit disappointing after doing all this to hear that from someone who's in such a responsible position.
We got a few awards as well, just to show that we have absolutely no experience in business. We learned medicine. We know how to deal with patients who are with us. We don't know anything about building a business. We don't know anything about constructions, but we learned along the way. So I would encourage every one of you, if there is an option for you to learn along the way, don't hold back, spread your wings and just learn. And if you've got the passion to do things right, it'll happen. If you feel you're not built for business, you are built for business. We worked in a mission hospital in India before moving out. We had served in missions, volunteered, worked among the poorest of the poor, and we thought that was our calling at that point. But wherever we were, we realize now, looking back, that we were doing it with the intention of doing it with excellence. And that has been our calling. And we had a few awards given to us in Albury Wodonga. Best construction, best business, best new business. So we did something right, like AJ said. Yeah.
So with the building, you saw the slant on that. So initially when the architect designed that, there was just a a door and 2 windows there in a rectangular block. And I said, I'm spending so much money, the least you can do is make it look a bit pleasing to the eye. And he came back a week later, he drew some bricks on the side, and he said, I've changed the facade for you. And I said, no, this won't do it. So a bottle of scotch on the weekend, and that's the picture I came up with. There is audio, but probably not working.
Oh, maybe it just needs to return back.
That's okay.
That's okay. It's just a couple more seconds. That's it.
We can hear your voice instead.
So everyone asks us the question, why did you sell that when you were running such a flourishing business? Now, we all talk about 4% return, 6% return, 7. If you have 8, it's great. We were getting 22% returns here. So it ticked all the boxes for us. But then in 2019, Alfeen fell ill. She had severe chronic fatigue, and we were traveling to Melbourne a fair bit for treatment and things like that. So we ended up selling the business because our other business partner wanted to retire as well. So we sold it. So it's one of those things that happened, you know, which was not under our control. And we managed to sell it during the peak of COVID. We had a potential buyer, but I didn't think he was going to come back because COVID had hit. And in March, he came back to us saying that he wanted to, you know, he was still interested to buy. He asked us, are our books full? I said yes, and that's it. The next thing we knew, we were signing up the paperwork.
At that time, probably about 5 years prior to that, I started an empowerment and a coaching business, because I realized that a lot of patients who were coming to me in the consulting room needed coaching. Half of them didn't have medical problems, and they were struggling with low self-esteem and other issues, and they were presenting with somatic symptoms or physical symptoms, when in reality it was more psychological and a lack of identity. So I started this organization called Eve, Equip, Enable, Empower, and started running conferences, doing international speaking. I was doing mentoring for young adults, did camps, got a Victorian government grant for doing leadership for young students, or high school students. I went to the high school, state schools in Wodonga, not in Albury, in Wodonga, and told them to give me 10 students from each cohort who had leadership potential but weren't putting their hands up. Because you've got natural leaders, right? Like you have people who'll put up their hand, young kids who'll put up their hands, and they're there for everything. But there are ones who've got the potential but don't have the confidence to do it. So I gathered 100 such students from high schools and put them in a group and coached them for 16 weeks, and they came through the leadership camp, and every single one of them went and spoke about how good it was for their self-esteem, and went on to do amazing things, because we've been following them up, because they were spoken into, their lives were spoken into. So I'm passionate about speaking into young people's lives, because I feel if we do that well now, our old age is taken care of. We'll have good nursing homes to live in, we'll have good facilities, good doctors, and good things to look after us in our old age.
The other thing we do is the DISC. We've been talking about DISC in the past. We do it for individuals, we do it for businesses, we do it for students, for high school students who are not undecided about their career choices. So we do this, and based on their personality profile, they can decide on their career. Do it for couples. We do it as part of recruitment. So for example, if you want to hire, you know, a salesperson, you've got 3 applicants, you want to pick one, get them to do the test, and we'll tell you who's the best fit for the job. We do it as a part of team building, workshops, anything you name it, business oriented, we can do DISC.
Why do we do it? Because we found that it helped us in our business. Having people of different skills and capacities in our own practice, we realized that everyone was running their own race, and finding that to get all of them to work together was difficult. Doing the DISC helped us, and therefore we take it to businesses and say, this is what we do. And if you've got a team of really good people who can work well on their own but struggle to work together, it's an amazing team building exercise that we have.
And DISC is not something that came about just recently. It's been there from 400 BC. And some of you would have heard of Carl Jung and the Myers-Briggs version. William Marston was another person who developed this around that time, and he was John Maxwell was the one who sort of refined his, and that's the one we use. So with the DISC report, unlike the other DISC assessments that are there in the market, this one is a 30-page report which tells you in detail about your communication and your leadership style, and it gives you these 3 graphs. So the first one is how you see yourself, the second one is how you cope under pressure, and third is how the world sees you. So this sort of gives you an idea. So this is helpful when you're trying to recruit employees as well, and in your workplace if you're having any issues or you just want it as a workshop, it's a good thing to have, to break the ice at the workplace as well. So after having looked at that, do you guys know what your leadership style is, or do you know what your DISC style is?
Where
All
D is dominant, so you're very decisive, you're straight up. Cut out the fluff, tell me what you need to do, and you do it. So D is the decisive one. I is the inspirational or the chatty or the life of the party person who is a really good salesperson, can sell ice to an Eskimo. S is a steady. 69% of the world, of the population is an S style. Steady, likes to keep things, everything has to be smooth, less conflict, steady, doesn't like change as much, but if you do encourage them to change, then they will, but change is not their predominant style. And C is the compliant one, the one who looks at the figures. All the accountants in the rooms are probably C because they look into the details. Like I remember getting this 20-page report from the accountants, and I'll flip through and look at the last one. Do I have to pay or am I getting a refund? But then it pays to have an accountant who's a C. So we actually did the DISC on our accountant, and C, 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 and we were like, yep, we're in good hands. So that's it. So that's your DISC. That's just an information about the DISC style. So yeah, like Ajit said, if you can guess your DISC style, great, but otherwise we can do it for you. And we help relationships, especially with couples, children. We do it for high school and middle year students as well. We do it for university students if they're not sure what career they want to do. So they've got a completely different report based on their thinking style, their learning style, and what professions will suit them based on their personality.
So if we as a group were going to Noosa by road for a Christmas party, all the Ds would say, I'll drive. All the Is would say, even if they can, they'll hide their keys and say, I can't find the keys, because they want to sit and chat on the bus. All the S's will be very particular that everyone has their seat belts on, water bottles, etc. And all the C's will still pull up the Waze or maps on their phone and make sure that we're headed to the right place. The other part of our business is Varghese Medical Consulting, wherein we look at setting up businesses from scratch, medical related, so GP, dental, allied health specialists. So from sourcing a block of land to turnkey. So anyone, I've already spoken to probably half of the audience sitting in the room and looking at how we can partner with you all. So from anyone in the building industry to real estate agents in the commercial sector to accountants to bookkeepers, etc., lawyers, whatever it is that will be required. This is a conversation that we can have, and then look at how best I can introduce you to my clients, and then you can take it from there. Apart from all this, we do like to give back. So we do a lot of volunteering overseas. One of the places we work in is Delhi. We do medical camps. So just go there, table and chair, probably under a tree, and we have 250, 300 people rock up there just for medical treatment. So we do that on a regular basis. That's the name of the organization, Tejas Asia. If you want to know more information, just have a look at them on the website. Other than that,
we work with we work in a school in the slums in India. The children are basically rag pickers. So what they do is go into the dumps and separate the waste, and they take the plastics and sell it, and they'll probably get $1 in a week. That's all they get. But then educating them is a problem because they need to work in order to look after their family. So this organization basically takes them in the morning. They come in the morning from 9 to 12. They're taught English and maths. And then they're fed a meal, a protein-rich, a nutritious meal, and then in the afternoon they go out and do their work. So we started working with them from 2011. Yeah. and took our children. First, as a family, we went with our children, and we saw the difference it made in their lives. And then a lot of our friends wanted to come with us, so we started taking teams from our local churches as well. And yeah, we've been doing that, and stopped during COVID because everything has shut down, obviously. We just restarted it this year. Yeah.
Other than that,
yeah.
we do work in Fiji and Tonga. ALFEEN does the women's empowerment coaching sessions in Fiji. In Tonga, there's only one GP clinic for 100,000 people, and that one GP has decided that they're making more money if they see people wanting visa clearances to go overseas. So she's getting $750 for that, so she ended up stopping seeing the regular coughs and colds, and there was no place for people to go. So we're trying to source a block of land, which we've done, and we are looking at setting up a medical center. This is all voluntary work. So if there are tradies in the house you think you can help with the build, definitely see me and we can do something down the track. Yep, that's about it.